Hi, I'm Cindy, and this is the Community Effect Podcast. On this show, we talk about all things teaching and learning, from building authentic relationships to creating a classroom culture where students thrive. We dig into mindset, motivation, engagement, and behavior, because real classroom success isn't just about lesson plans. It's about the community you build. These are conversations for teachers who want more than to just survive. And these are strategies for educators who are ready to take their community to the next level. This is the Community Effect Podcast. Hey guys, it's Cindy. Welcome to the show. I felt compelled to do this episode today because we're officially in the stretch, the final stretch of the school year. And if your brain feels like it's juggling 97 tabs at once, you're not imagining things. This season is a lot. You've wrapped up testing, you've got field trips coming, awards to plan, unfinished curriculum that you meant to get to, and kids who are, well, let's be real, they're starting to check out a bit. And you might be thinking, there's just not enough time or energy left to handle it all. And honestly, I've been there. I've worked in education for over 30 years. I've taught everything from kinder through 6th grade, combo classes, online learning, and I even served as a principal. So trust me when I say, I know that this time of year can feel heavy. And when you layer on everything outside of school, your family, your personal responsibilities, your needs, it's no wonder so many of us hit this stretch of the year running on fumes. So if you're feeling tired, overwhelmed, and unmotivated, or like you're just kind of going through the motions, I see you. You're not alone. And because I know what you're going through, I thought it would be really helpful today to talk about some ways that you could reclaim your energy, boost your mood, and actually enjoy the last few weeks of school with your students. I believe that we are all here to live our best life, the best way we possibly can. And when we operate in a cycle of reflection and learning, we acquire new information, new ideas, and new skills, and then our lives are better as a result. You know the old expression, knowledge is power. It's really interesting because John Maxwell has a different take on that. He says, no. Knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge is power. I thought that was brilliant. He says it's not enough to have ideas about what we can do. We actually have to do them. So I'm hoping that if I give you a bunch of different ideas today, you can try at least one. Not a major life overhaul, because let's be real, ain't nobody got time for that. But I think if you put one of these into action, it would make a big difference when your days feel long and your tank feels low. Recently, I heard something on Rachel Hollis's podcast that really stuck with me. It's this idea of the current you versus the future you. She talked about how the version of ourselves that we are right now often sabotage the version of ourselves we want to be tomorrow. And wow, I felt that because those moments when we're most tired, at the end of the day, the end of the week, or in this final stretch of the year, are exactly when we have the biggest opportunity to set ourselves up, our future selves up, for success. But we don't. We don't have energy. We tell ourselves we're just too spent. So we put it off. And then we wake up the next day behind before we ever leave the house. Back in the day when I was teaching, I was a single mom. I was raising 4 boys. Yes, you can imagine that. And even though my parents lived close by and they helped me shuttle them to their sporting activities and their school stuff, it was still a whirlwind. We'd come home and I would make dinner, help the kids with homework, get them ready for bed, and all of that after buzzing around the classroom trying to engage 34 other humans all day. By the time my kids went to bed, my energy was completely gone. And all I wanted to do, truly, was just sit on the couch and numb out by the TV. And I'd stay up way too late because honestly, it was the only time I had that I felt it was for me. I told myself that I was decompressing, but the truth was I wasn't decompressing, I was depleting. And then I'd wake up the next morning. At the very last minute, I'd throw on whatever clothes I could find. I'd grab a granola bar, my coffee, and I'd rush out the door, already on defense before I even got into the parking lot. So you can see where this concept of current me versus future me really resonated. Because at that point in my life, I wasn't paying attention to how current Cindy was sabotaging future Cindy. I didn't realize how much energy I was leaking. And I certainly didn't understand how small changes could create a ripple effect that helped me better the next morning, the next week, or even the next season. Man, I wish I'd known that back then. It would have made things so much easier. And that's when I came up with the idea for this podcast episode. I knew it was something that I wanted to share with you. Now, if you've been hanging out with me for a little bit, you know that I geek out on mindset work. I'm always looking for new ways to make life and teaching feel easier, especially in this season when everything feels like a lot. So I'm going to stop rambling on now, and I'm going to get to some things that you can do to end the year strong. Are you ready? Let's get into it. So the first thing I want to invite you to think about is something I call the fuel check-in. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a moment to pause and ask yourself, what is draining me right now and what is fueling me? Now, I know that might sound really simple, but most of us move through our days on autopilot. We're reacting, adjusting, and doing our best to keep up, but rarely do we stop to check in with ourselves, to notice what's really going on underneath the surface. We miss the signals that our brain and our bodies are sending us. We push through the exhaustion or the tension without even asking, why do I feel this way right now? But here's the thing. When we pause and name it, we start to see our patterns more clearly, and that awareness gives us choice. It helps us step out of survival mode and into something more intentional. So let's start by naming it. What is pulling at your energy? It might be something external, like a noisy classroom, a negative staff room, meetings that drag on forever, or a conversation with somebody that just left you feeling completely depleted. Or maybe it's something internal, like decision fatigue, comparison, or overthinking on your lesson plans. Maybe you have sensory overload from 1,000 interruptions a day and multitasking. Or it's the stress of trying to meet impossible expectations, or maybe even that voice in your head that's telling you that you're not doing enough. And if you've been feeling off and you can't quite explain it right now, that's okay. It could be that you're experiencing something I call the congruency gap. It can creep up on you without you even knowing it. If you've ever had to put like a smile on your face when you're overwhelmed, or stay calm when you're frustrated, or even push through the day while feeling anything but okay, that's the gap. It's the internal dissonance between what's happening inside you and what you're showing on the outside. And as teachers, we're doing it all the time because we show up for our kids. And it's become such a part of who we are and what we do that it easily goes unnoticed. And over time, though, it can really take a toll on your energy. It's not just about being tired at the end of the day. It's the exhaustion of performing when your internal world isn't matching your external expression. We're going to explore this more deeply in another episode because I think this is a really big deal. But for now, I just want you to know that if you've been feeling off and can't quite explain it, it might be the congruency gap at work. Now I want to shift gears for a minute because this is where I think it gets really powerful. Ask yourself what's fueling you. What are the little things, the quiet moments, the small joys, those meaningful connections that light something up inside of you? Maybe it's watching the shyest student in your class raise their hand for the first time, or the moment your whole class was effectively using talk moves during group work. It could be looking how far your students have come when you check in on their progress goals. Maybe it's something outside of school that lights you up, like listening to your favorite music while you're cooking a meal, or that one friend that sent you that kind text out of the blue. It could be those moments when you get to curl up on the couch to read a good book, or binge watch your favorite show. Maybe it's FaceTiming with your grandkids and hearing their infectious little laugh. I know that is definitely one for me. Or maybe it's getting outside and taking a run or going for a hike. Whatever it is, notice how your body responds when you name those things. I mean, you can literally feel the shift of energy. You feel lighter, more grounded, more connected. That's because these aren't just feel-good moments. They are fuel for the work and for your life. And if you want to amplify that feeling even more, take it a step further and bring in gratitude. Think about what you're truly grateful for right now, not in a forced or performative way, but from your heart. That small moment when you felt seen, or when you came home to find that dinner was made and the laundry was done. Or maybe it's someone that let you go first in line at the grocery store when you were in a huge rush. Because the more we notice these things, the more we feel them. And the more we feel them, the more they fuel us. So now that you've named what's draining you and what's filling you up, here comes the next step. Ask yourself, what's within my control? Because no, you may not be able to cancel testing season or that field trip or take away every stressor in your life, but you can choose how you're going to respond. You can decide where you focus your time, your attention, and your energy. You can set boundaries around the things that consistently leave you feeling depleted. And you can choose to create more space for the things that fuel you. You can let go of the things that are out of your hands so that you're not carrying stuff that doesn't belong to you. That's what we call your locus of control. This is where your power lives. So before you move on, take a moment and reflect. What is one thing that you can let go of this week? And what is one small joy that you can intentionally make space for? It's not about fixing everything. It's about creating a little more room for light to get in. Okay, so now I want to introduce you to some micro habits. These are things that bring joy and consistency into your day. Because often we associate self-care with spa days or bubble baths. And hey, those are great. I love a good pedicure. But real self-care, it's the tiny things that you build into your day that help you thrive. Those little habits that give you a sense of control, comfort, and peace. So let's talk about the morning. I told you earlier that there were many mornings when I was teaching that I'd wake up at the very last possible minute and just throw on some clothes, grab something to eat, my coffee, rush out the door. And that I was always on defense before I even got to the parking lot. And unfortunately for me, for a while, that became the norm. So if that's you right now, there is no judgment at all. But I want to offer you a small doable shift. It's something that I call the power up and reset. It's a micro habit for teaching with energy and joy. Super simple routine that helps you start your day with just a little more intention and a lot more peace. And you don't need to wake up an hour earlier or become a whole new person. It's just about setting the tone that's going to nourish your body, your mind, and your nervous system before your day even takes off. Now, if you've never heard about habit stacking, here's the idea. Instead of trying to build a brand new routine from scratch, you're going to connect a new habit to something that you already do, like drinking coffee or brushing your teeth or grabbing your keys. By stacking a new habit to an existing one, it makes the routine easier to remember and more likely to stick. All right, so this is how this morning habit stack works. The night before, you're going to lay out your clothes, you're going to grab a sticky note, and you're going to write a grounding word or phrase on that for the next day. Something like, you got this, or have a great day. It could be anything, whatever's going to light you up. And you're going to place that sticky note someplace where you're guaranteed to see it first thing in the morning. Mine would go on my coffee maker. You could even put it on your bathroom mirror or your phone screen. So then in the morning, before you even pick up your phone, you're going to follow this rhythm. You're going to go straight to your kitchen and you're going to pour yourself a warm drink, coffee, tea, lemon water, whatever it is that you enjoy. And let that be the first sensory moment of the day. A warm mug, a slow breath, and no multitasking. Then I want you to choose one of two things based on how you're feeling. Either read a single page of something that fills your soul, like a quote, a devotional, or you might even want to do a nonfiction book. I really like to read self-help books. So I would read 4 or 5 pages in the morning. Or you could take a few minutes to stretch. Nothing intense, just some shoulder rolls or a standing twist, a forward fold, or maybe even a sun salutation to open up your breath and your body. You can alternate between reading and movement throughout the week or just do one. Then you're going to eat something. Real food, not a granola bar. Something with at least one color or a little protein. Something that's more nourishing than a grab-and-go carb bomb. This doesn't need to be fancy. It could be a banana with almond butter, overnight oats, maybe even a boiled egg and a handful of berries. The point is to fuel first instead of running on caffeine and adrenaline. After that, go brush your teeth, get dressed in the outfit that you picked out the night before, and before you walk out the door, read that sticky note aloud to yourself. It's a small but powerful cue to your nervous system that says, I'm grounded, I'm ready, I'm walking into this day with intention. Let's go. Okay, that's it. It's a simple stack. It doesn't require huge time investment, but it helps you shift from running behind and starting the day in defense to leading your day. And it reminds your body and your mind and your heart that you matter too, and that how you start the day sets the tone for how you move through it. And if that sounds like something you want to try, I've created a quick printable checklist that you can use as a reminder, so you can grab that in the show notes. And now that you're out the door ready to take on the world, here is another one of my favorite go-tos, a morning playlist. Choose some songs that energize you, that uplift you, that will help you shake off that morning fog. And while you're driving to work, play those songs. You might even choose songs from a time in your life when you felt fearless, joyful, or unstoppable. Let that memory of that version of you and the music fill you up so that you can carry it with you into your day. It's such a small thing, but it really helps. And actually, I know it helps because I've seen people on TikTok playing that music and singing on their way, really pumping themselves up before they get to school. And now that we have our day off to a great start, let's dive into a micro habit that you can do midday to keep the momentum going. All right, we're going to talk about lunch. Because somewhere along the way, teachers started believing that eating lunch at your desk while multitasking was just part of the job. Who has time to take a real lunch break, right? Or even a restroom break for that matter. But let me offer you this truth bomb. Even superheroes eat lunch. This is your invitation to reclaim the middle of your day, not just to feed your body, but to refill your spirit. I'm talking about stepping out of your classroom, sitting with a teammate, or even joining your students in the cafeteria and actually connecting. Not to talk about lesson plans or that one kid's behavior. Nope, we're not going to do that. This is a no school talk zone. This is where we share funny stories, talk about real life, and laugh a little on purpose. Because laughter is a nervous system reset. Connection is energy. And taking 20 minutes to feel human again, that is not selfish. And it is sustainable. So let this be your micro habit. 1 or 2 days a week, step away from the desk, sit down, and share a meal. And remind yourself, you may be a superhero, but even superheroes need lunch. The next one is a future self check-in. This is really interesting. It's a great midday reset strategy, and it's simple and powerful. What you do is you pause just for a moment and you ask yourself, what does my 5 p.m. self need from me right now? That version of you who will be walking out the door later, what would help her feel steady, proud, and not as exhausted as she's heading home? Maybe she needs you to drink some water. Maybe she needs you to let go of a frustrating moment, or say no to another request, or take a deep breath before re-entering a difficult class. It's not about fixing it. It's about choosing something small that honors you. This is more than a mindfulness trick. It's grounded in the science of self-compassion and emotional regulation. Research by Kristen Neff and others show that people who treat themselves with care and perspective during high-stress moments are more resilient and less likely to burn out and better equipped to stay connected to their values. This kind of check-in helps protect your energy for the long game and shifts you from survival to intention. And the best part, when you show up for your future self in the middle of the day, she always thanks you later. And now, the end of the day. It's really important to unpack the events of the day before heading home. So try this. It's called the reverse gratitude voice memo. Instead of listing all the things that went well, you pause and ask yourself, what almost broke me today, but didn't? Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive. You want to choose a moment where maybe you nearly lost your patience, or you felt overwhelmed, or you were doubting yourself, but you made it through. You take 30 seconds and you record it on your phone, not to vent, but to name the hard and acknowledge your strength in handling it. This practice isn't about toxic positivity. It's about honoring your resilience. It helps shift the narrative from I'm barely holding it together to I've handled more than I realized. Whether you delete the memo right after or you keep it for another tough day, this simple habit reminds you that you're stronger than you feel in the moment. And you are allowed to be proud of how you show up, even when it's messy. None of these are extras. These are all essential little habits that make a big difference, especially when things get hard. Now let's talk about the next shift. And I want to say loud and clear, boundaries are not selfish. They are survival. Yes, we're going to talk about boundaries. And I'm not talking about big, dramatic ones, but the kind that quietly protect your energy, your time, and your impact. Here's the truth. Boundaries aren't about building walls, and they're not about being difficult or inflexible. They're about creating clarity and showing care for yourself and for your students. Because when you set boundaries, you're not just saying no, you're actually saying yes to what matters most. And if you're constantly saying yes to everyone else's agenda, another meeting, another email, another last-minute request, you are unintentionally saying no to the things that you need. Time to plan, time to grade those reports that have been sitting on your desk, time to take a break and have lunch, time that you need to help you do your job well. So what kind of boundaries are we talking about? The big ones are boundaries around energy, emotion, and communication. So leaving school at a reasonable hour, not absorbing every student or family crisis as your own, not answering emails at 9 p.m. just because they're there. And yes, not giving every ounce of your evening or weekends to grading and planning. Now, let's be real. Sometimes those boundaries aren't possible. There are IEP meetings that get scheduled during your prep. Parents need a phone call home. Or maybe your PLC runs over. I get that. We're not aiming for perfection. We're aiming for progress. The goal is to make sure those extra demands don't become your default mode. That's where these micro habits come in. Small intentional rituals that help you protect your time and energy without guilt. Try an after the bell exit. You can set a timer for the last 10 minutes of your day where you have a routine that you pack up, you clear your space, and you head out the door. It helps keep you accountable, and it's that gentle reminder that it's time to go. Because I know how easily it is to get caught up in just doing the next thing. I mean, there were so many times when it was like, okay, I'm out of here. And then somebody would come in and talk to me. And then it'd be like, all right, I'm ready to go. And then be like, oh, darn, I forgot to do this. And I would stop and start and stop and start and stop. So set a timer, be intentional about it, and stick to it. The other thing you can do is add an email signature with your office hours. Let people know that You check messages in the morning, when you get to school or after school, but let them know that you're not available 24/7. Use a go-to not right now script. When someone asks you to take on something new, try saying something like, "That sounds great. Can I get back to you once I've checked out my current bandwidth?" Or maybe you create a white space Wednesday where you reserve one lunch or planning block just for you each week. You don't schedule over it because that's your boundary and it's your time to breathe. Now, boundaries aren't always easy to hold. And I know that. I struggle with it sometimes, but especially for teachers, because we carry this unspoken pressure to be everything to everyone, to prove that we care by being available all the time. But overextending yourself to the point of depletion isn't a sign of commitment. It's a recipe for burnout. You can be passionate, dedicated, loving, and still say no. You can still leave on time. You can still turn off your school email at 6 p.m. You can decide that you don't need to volunteer for one more thing. Boundaries are how we protect the versions of ourselves that we want to bring into the classroom. The rested version, the grounded one, the kind, the patient, the inspired version. If boundary setting feels hard, here are a few phrases that you can try. And as always, you can come back to this later if you need to. Here's the first one. I want to give that the attention it deserves, and I don't really have the capacity right now. Or, that's a great idea, but I'm protecting my planning time this week. Or here's another one. I'm saying no to preserve energy for what is already on my plate, but thank you for asking. Here's a question to take with you. What boundary have I been letting go of? And what's the cost of not holding on to it? I've put together a free printable with these boundary setting scripts and microhabit ideas to help you hold space for what matters most. And you can grab it in the show notes. So here's your challenge. Pick one small thing that you can commit to this week. It could be as simple as leaving the building on time 2 days in a row or eating lunch in peace without multitasking. But just choose one boundary and stick to it, not because you're being difficult, but because you're worth protecting. Now, if boundaries are protecting your time and your energy, then this next one is deciding what you want to protect them for. And that's where joy comes in. One of the most powerful microhabits that you can build into your week is simply this: making space for something that brings you joy outside of school. Not something productive, not something school-related, something that reminds you that you are more than a teacher. Because let's be honest, it's easy to lose yourself in this role. When you spend your evenings grading, your weekends planning, and your mental energy constantly troubleshooting students' needs, it can feel like there's no room left for the rest of you. But your creativity, your laughter, your relationships, your hobbies, those things matter, not just for your happiness, but for your sustainability in this profession. So here's your invitation. Choose one thing that lights you up and create a little space for it on purpose. Maybe it's reading a fun book. Maybe it's walking the dog while listening to your favorite podcast. Wink, wink. Maybe it's painting, gardening, baking, karaoke, puzzles, game night with friends, a dance class. Maybe it's mine, watching Schitt's Creek or Ted Lasso with your partner, or just sitting in silence with a cup of tea. It doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to be yours. If that sounds impossible right now, start small. Take 10 minutes one evening a week. You can even build it into a routine like joyful Thursday evenings or no work Sunday afternoons. Put it on your calendar like a real appointment, because it is. You are allowed to have a full, vibrant life outside of school. In fact, you need it. These little things aren't selfish. They are soul-filling. And the more space that you make for the things that light you up, the more capacity you have to keep showing up the way you want to. Okay, my friend, I know that was a lot, but I was just so inspired because I just know how hard this time of year is. So I want you to take a deep breath. this final stretch of school year, it doesn't have to be a grind. You can finish strong, and not by doing more, but by choosing more of what matters most. Remember to think about this. What is the current you doing that's sabotaging the future you? And then flip it. What can the current you do right now, even in a small way, that the future you will thank you for tomorrow morning? Remember, the goal is not perfection. It's always progress and compassion. Because we've all had those nights when we're running on empty. But the truth is, when your tank is low, that's exactly when small wins matter most. So before we go, let me remind you of those small shifts. Number 1, do the fuel check-in. Identify what is draining you, what is fueling you, and what is in your locus of control. Number 2, build in a micro habit that adds consistency or joy, like the morning habits that we talked about, or the afternoon ones. 3rd, set a boundary that protects your peace. Think about the boundary that you want to set this week. And 4th, make space for joy outside of school, because you are more than your work. These aren't big changes. They're small decisions that create big impact. And I promise, when you start protecting your energy, even just a little, everything is going to start to feel more manageable, and you are going to wake up ready to take on your day. If this episode gave you something helpful, a fresh idea, or just a little hope, would you take a second and share it with a teacher friend? Let's remind each other that our spark is worth protecting. And don't forget, you can get all of the tools for this episode in the show notes. Come see me at Instagram, crobin.kids, and let me know, what are you protecting right now? And how are you going to finish the year strong? I'd love to hear from you. If no one's told you lately, what you do matters. And you matter, the whole you, not just the teacher you. You've got this, my friend. Let's finish the year strong. I'll see you next time on the Community Effect Podcast. Have a great day.